Blessings, beloveds. Welcome back. Anastasia, Cosmic Astrologer, with you guys today, wanting to share some insights about the new moon in February. So I will be discussing a few points about the planetary changes of the month of February, because there are some pretty significant changes taking place. Before I start that, I guess I just want to remind us all that we have really... well, for the month of January, which we are still in, because today is the 27th of January as I do this video, we've had two eclipses. We had the solar eclipse early in the month on the 6th of January, which was at 15 degrees of Capricorn, and was actually conjunct Saturn, and Pluto was actually wedged between those two planets. So it was a pretty heavy solar eclipse, in my opinion. So for those of you that are Capricorn, Cancer, I expect that there's been some things have been stirred up and some events have taken place or shifted. It's not an easy energy, as I've explained in previous videos. Solar eclipses, they do generate external changes and shifts and events to take place. They can be wonderful provided we are, on path, provided we are authentic and being honest with ourselves, really. And as I've mentioned before, solar eclipses, when we're not being honest with ourselves, with our own, path, life, then the eclipses will, spit things out from the unconscious, the shadow component within you, and they'll just bring it to light, really, and bring it to your attention and awareness. And there's often a resistance to that because it feels like it just comes out of nowhere, but it doesn't really. It's just been, it's been assimilating in your unconscious shadow component self, really. So anyway, regardless of that, we've had two eclipses. We had the total lunar eclipse on the 21st of January, and that was the final eclipse in the polarities of Leo Aquarius, which we've had the last, 18 months or so or longer. And that was a real closure period of that particular polarity, those archetypes, Aquarius and Leo. So there's been a lot of things closing off and shifting, and there's been new things beginning as well. It can be a little bit overwhelming at times because there can just be so much going on at any given moment. But I guess it's really about tuning into, for you personally, what is the most necessary thing for you at this point on your path to tune into, that will bring greater awareness and that will serve your path, that will empower you and enable you to step into whatever it is you need to step into, to make the decisions you need to make. It's not always about making decisions and stepping into things. There's, periods of reflection, introspection, and having patience and waiting is equally important. It's just about understanding, I guess, or distinguishing, when is it a better time to reflect and take a step back, and when is it a better time to take action and step into things. And that's why a reading can really be very helpful, because these updates, whilst they can be very, very useful, and each of you will connect to different elements of what I discussed today, it is a general overview. So, when you want a personalized reading to understand everything about you right now on your path, well, then you'd really need to be having a natal reading or a forecast reading, or both, really. So getting back to this new moon, yes, I just wanted to say that because we've had two, pretty powerful eclipses this month, we're still we're still in the residue, of that energy of those eclipses. Eclipses can last, several months beyond the actual date of the eclipse. So there will be things that I think will become more clear as time goes on in the next few months, for certain people at least anyway. So, if the energies are a little bit overwhelming or quite intense, it's no surprise. We've just had two eclipses, one solar and one total lunar eclipse. So I guess with that, it's always important to be implementing self-care. I was just thinking the other day, just through my own personal journey of spiritual work or inner work, and sharpening my intuition, and really consciously working with raising my vibration and my frequency, what I've noticed is that I'm just so much more sensitive to a lot of different things. So I'm a lot more sensitive to alcohol, for instance. I really struggle now to have, you know, a couple of glasses, and it really just messes with my system because of the work that I'm doing. So I don't do that frequently. But I do like to have a glass of wine, you know, every now and then. Also, and even more importantly, what I've been noticing and realizing is that because of the work that I've been doing, and some of you will relate to this because some of you are on this path as well and you're doing this work yourself. So this is why I'm sharing it, to perhaps create a space where people can feel understood, you know, and that they're not going mad. Your vibration, as you continue to raise it through conscious work, just really makes you a lot more sensitive. You know, usually people who are on this path are empathetic by their very nature anyway. So your empathy is really sharpened, your sensitivity is really sharpened, your intuition is really sharpened, and that's amazing within itself. But the problem is we can kind of get caught up in or forget to protect ourselves when we are in a particular environment or around a particular person or people that are not operating on that vibratory level. They are operating at a different vibration, which, you know, just to keep it simple, is a lower sort of vibration. And it's not making a judgment saying that they're not a good person or they're a bad person or whatever. It's just simply distinguishing when your consciousness is vibrating at a particular level, and let's just say a higher level, you are a lot more prone to being impacted by the vibration of those around you. You know, the less conscious we are, the less empathetic and sensitive we are, the more dense we are, right? So in one way, it's kind of like it would describe those people that have really thick skin and things just bounce off them and so forth. And that can be a great thing too. But if you're working on the level of, you know, spirituality, astrology, healing work, therapeutic work, you are more than likely quite a sensitive person anyway. So as you continue to evolve through that sort of conscious work, you become more and more sensitive and more intuitive. And long story short, what I'm getting at is that just be very, very mindful that, you know, even if it's a family member, it doesn't matter who it is. If someone's not operating at the same frequency as you, and to use I suppose, a strong example, let's just say that you're in the company of somebody who is really upset or really angry or really distressed or disappointed or, you know, just moody, all that sort of stuff, it's going to impact you, whether you like it or not. So you must maintain that awareness consistently on a day-to-day basis. Otherwise, your energy field, your energetic bodies basically are attacked, as it were. You know, it's toxicity moves into your space, your fields, your sphere, and quite often we can be very, very unaware and very unconscious of it because we may just be very focused in the moment that we're in with regards to the person we're hanging out with and sharing our time with and so forth. And if it's a family member, it's always really difficult to remember these things because the main sort of, I suppose, focus or consciousness in those moments is, well, this is my father or this is my sister or this is my brother, and that the family hook sort of comes out and makes you feel like you have to give, or you have to, not that there's anything wrong with giving. Giving is a very powerful experience, but giving and being taken advantage of or not having any boundaries, that, you know, they're very different things. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that because I've just had some experiences recently which just really made a very powerful impact on me and reminded me just how sensitive my frequency actually is at the moment, just with life and the different things that have happened in my own life and the things that I've consciously been working on. All right, so I know I've deviated a bit from the purpose of this video, but I just wanted to share that for those of you that can relate. So the new moon at 15 degrees of Aquarius and 45 minutes coincides with the Chinese New Year. And it's pretty special. It's the Chinese year of the Earth Pig. And the pig year was around 12 years ago again. So they repeat every 12 years. The Chinese animals have a 12-year period, as it were, cycle. But there's different elements that connect to the various animals in the Chinese zodiac, and this one happens to be an earth pig. And from what I remember seeing, the last time we had an earth pig year was in the 1950s, so it was quite some time ago. So this is pretty significant from that point of view, in terms of there's something quite new beginning with this cycle. Now, I'm not here to discuss Chinese astrology, but I did want to kind of bring this into the new moon because it's the Chinese New Year, it is a new moon, and it coincides with the Earth Pig. And the pig, whilst it doesn't sound like the most flattering animal, you know, out of the Chinese animals, everyone wants to be a tiger or a dragon usually. That's been my experience. And the pig doesn't, you know, it doesn't sound so flattering. But in fact, the truth of the matter is that the pig is one of the most intelligent creatures, one of the most intelligent animals. And it's very much symbolized through fortune, you know, good luck and fortune. And it can really bring a lot of... I suppose, I mean, luck is a funny word, isn't it? Because is there such thing as luck, or do we create our own luck? You know, it just depends how you look at that. But just in terms of the virtues of the pig, when we are in the vibration of that year, we are attracting the abundance from the perspective of luck that the pig has to offer. The pig is also very generous. It's a generous, it has generosity as part of his character. So this energy really works very well with Jupiter in Sag at the moment, which we're going to have, you know, till the end of the year. So there's a sense of generosity and fortune and abundance and expansion that comes through Jupiter in Sag. And this little pig is bringing a lot of that with him as well. So it's just an interesting point to note, because you may have been born during the pig year. You can quickly look that up online if you don't know. It's all accessible, so you won't have any problems. All right, so this new moon is really beautiful, actually. It doesn't have any difficult aspects, which is great for a change. You know, we've, as I've just explained, we've had two pretty challenging eclipses, one solar, one lunar, pretty intense energies, pretty confronting, pretty challenging for a lot of people. And this is the feedback that I'm getting from people I work with, and certainly people in my own personal life as well. So this new moon in Aquarius has a conjunction to Mercury, while Mercury is in Aquarius, and it forms a sextile to Jupiter. And they are the two major aspects that this new moon carries with it, which is pretty amazing, actually, because I just want to read something to you. This will only take a moment. I just want to remind you, I know we all know what a new moon is. Well, I hope so. But a new moon is when the sun and moon are in a conjunction together. There is a difference, though, because, you know, the sun and moon can be together, and whilst it's a conjunction, this is important to understand. It could be a balsamic moon or it could be a new moon, and the way to make a distinction is to understand that a new moon is always seen to be for anywhere from 0 to 45 degrees ahead of the sun. So if the moon is behind the sun, then it's a balsamic phase. It needs to be 0 to 45 degrees ahead of the sun to be characterized as a new moon. At the new moon phase, the flow of the solar lunar energies initiates and projects the seed impulse in an instinctive and subjective manner that will fulfill and complete a purpose as the remaining cycle unfolds. In the absence of light, this vision is felt but not seen. The symbolic seed germinates underground. Now, I'm reading this because it's just a very succinct way of putting the meaning of the new moon, what it literally is. Because I really love that part where she says this absence of light, or in the absence of light, there is a vision felt. So you can't see it, but there's a sense of something being born or coming through. And that's really the experience we have every month with a new moon. You know, I mean, a new moon can come and go, and many people won't necessarily be able to correlate a particular thing happening. But, you know, it's really all about your own awareness and what you are tuned into. And a new moon doesn't show you at the beginning what's actually happening, because the new moon is about planting something, isn't it? It's about planting what you wish to see culminate over the next couple of weeks, essentially, until we get to the point where we have a full moon. And during that full moon, we get to experience or see what started during the new moon. So, you know, we have this every single month. So there's a chance, there's an opportunity every single month to work with some very clear intention of what you wish to create, of what you wish to give birth to. And what I'm going to do in a moment is I'm going to discuss this new moon through the 12 different houses, just to give you guys a little bit of insight. I'm just going to make a few points on each house. Otherwise, I'll be here for 3 hours if I went into an in-depth delineation of every single house with the new moon. But just getting back to the aspects, this conjunction to Mercury is suggesting, and in Aquarius, is suggesting that there's something very important being born during this new moon that has a direct correlation with the mind, with our ideas, with our thinking. So if you think about Aquarius, you know, Aquarius is such a visionary sign. It's such a futuristic sign. It has that ability to be so incredibly objective and intuitive as well. You know, Aquarius is very much linked to intuition, as is the planet Uranus, its ruler. So there's a very strong energy of intuition that's being carried through this new moon because of all the Aquarian energy. And Mercury being there is saying that this intuition is literally going to be transported through the Aquarian energy and come out through the mercurial function, which is your left brain. So that's one thing. The other thing is to be very mindful of what are the ideas that you are carrying. If you're the sort of person, let me just back up. If you're the sort of person that has rituals during every month when we have a new moon, and that is a very effective way to work with the energy, by the way. On the day of the new moon, very simply put, you can create a mantra. You can set a very clear, in this case, mental intention, because it's Mercury, right? It's the mind, it's your ideas, your thinking, your thoughts, everything perhaps that you've been learning, things like that. But it's got a real visionary energy to it as well, even though during the new moon you can't see it. So just understand that the Mercury in Aquarius brings forth these elements of objectivity, intuition, visionary thinking, innovative thinking. And it's also about not so much about your own self, as it were, because the new moon is in Aquarius. And Aquarius is what in us is connected to, humanity, to a community. What within us can we bring forth, and how can we contribute in the consciousness of humanity, you could say, or in the consciousness of groups, social groups, things of that nature. There are many gifts and talents that each of us have in so many. It's a vast, space of gifts and talents that people have. Gifts and talents are not just, it's not just about being a famous musician or a famous artist or a famous anything. Creativity is something that we all have within us, just in different ways. And the creative expression within us is so important because it's connected to our actualization, our self-actualization. It's the Leo energy. So this new moon in Aquarius, is opposite Leo. So it's drawing in that polarity of our own specialness of who we are. Our own heart energy. Leo is always the heart. So what can we bring forth from our heart that we're really passionate about, that can enable us to work with some greater cause other than our own sort of selfish needs, if you like? The other thing is, with the sextile to Jupiter, there's such a beautiful, beautiful blessing coming from Jupiter towards this new moon, because it's a sextile. Sextiles, Jupiter is the blessing, opportunity, abundance, expansion, consciousness, travel. It can be so many different things. But essentially, it's an energy that really expands your life. So this expansion is being connected to this new moon. So the sextiles in astrology, a sextile is a particular aspect from one point to another, or one planet to another. The sextile aspect is 60 degrees. And traditionally, and this is the way I usually view it anyway, a sextile is always presenting some kind of opportunity. It's half of a trine aspect. A trine is 120, right? Sextile is 60. And whenever I've seen sextiles, when it comes to transits and progressions, I've never, ever not seen it deliver some kind of opportunity. Now, you need to obviously, unpack the planetary energies you're talking about, if you were looking at sextiles, that is. But in this case, Jupiter sextile this new moon is really giving that new moon some real opportunity to really further with the ideas that you have. It's an opportunity will present in the next 2 weeks at some point, or it could be in 2 weeks, or it could even be in 3 weeks. But there is an offering there. There's an offering of support, of real support. There's an offering of truth that's accessible to you, so that you can understand things better as well, because Jupiter in Sag is all about truth, or truths. So, Jupiter and Mercury are really giving this new moon something to work with from the point of view of the ideas that you've had that maybe you felt restrained, maybe you felt a bit held back, a little bit unsure, not really feeling confident enough to move forward with the plans and the ideas that you've had. But this new moon could really set that off for you in such a supportive and beautiful way, because of the aspects involved, particularly with the sextile from Jupiter. So we're being, you could say that the divine in this new moon is offering such a beautiful support and blessing, for us to come forth with these ideas that we have. But they can't just be self-centered. They can't just be all about self, because the energy is Aquarius. So now when I start to explain to you guys this new moon through the houses, you need to keep all this in mind. So the things to understand is, what does the new moon mean, which is always setting new intentions, new beginnings, planting new seeds, giving birth to something new, right? the Aquarian energy is about visionary energy. It's about intuition. It's about innovative ideas, creating some really way out there, projects, if you like, innovative. It's energy that takes us out of the little square, the little box that we can all be, subjected to at times, where we can get really stuck. This energy can really pour you out into seeing things from such objectivity and clarity, where you can gain greater wisdom and greater understanding. So you need to keep all this in mind when we're looking at the new moon through all the houses. Before I go to that, I just want to quickly mention for the month of January, what we have in addition to the new moon. So in short, this new moon is wonderful. It's something that we can really all feel very optimistic about, and feel very confident with our ideas and our thoughts of what we're wanting to create for our future, really. Now, the last few weeks we've had Mars in Aries. We've had Venus in Sag, which Venus is still in Sag at the moment, but moves into Capricorn on the 5th of February. And Mars moves into Taurus on the 15th of February. So there's a change of gears with the relationship planets, the masculine and the feminine energies of Mars and Venus. Having Mars and Venus in fire signs has probably been a lot of action for people, I think. A lot of exploring, a lot of taking chances, a lot of wanting some adventure and excitement in your life. And really sort of having the courage and the confidence and the initiative to exert yourself, to exert your willpower in what it is you've wanted to step into, your desires. And Venus in Sag has been a great uplifting energy for us, because we had Venus in Scorpio for so long. Venus was conjunct Ceres in Scorpio. There's been a lot of deep sort of grieving and mourning and losses that have taken place while the Venus has been conjunct Ceres in Scorpio. So it's been a pretty difficult few months, really. But the Venus in Sag has really uplifted people's spirits. It's given us a greater sense of appreciation of freedom and adventure, and feeling more optimistic, really, about our relationships, if we are in one, or even just about our money as well. Venus in Sag would have given us a bit of a boost there with that fire spirit energy. And when Venus goes into Capricorn on the 5th of February, as I said, the gears change a bit and Mars moves into Taurus. The pace is going to somewhat slow down. And that's not a bad thing, because if we were to run with Mars being in Aries all the time, or Venus being in Sag all the time, we would burn out, literally. So there's a reason why these energies move in the way they do, and why they stay where they stay for the duration of the time that they do. There's so much meaning to all this. It's not just, happening by random chance. So it's important to understand and to pay attention, because when we do, we can really make the most out of these vibrational energies that we are all subject to or privy to at the end of the day. It's not that the planetary energies don't affect people who don't believe in astrology. We are this cosmic energy anyway. We're just experiencing it in this physical body here on this planet Earth. But whether we are aware or conscious or unconscious, these influences are always there, having some kind of impact in our life. And the more unaware and unconscious we are, the greater impact they have in ways that perhaps we don't really want to. So sometimes also it's not so much about because we can't change when Mars enters Aries or when Venus enters Capricorn. It's not like we can change that. We can't. So what is it that we can do with that? We can accept it because it's a fact. It's an astronomical phenomena. We can have more awareness about it in terms of what it's doing to our birth chart. And we can, through that, we can become more conscious and work with that energy so that we don't have resistance to it. Anything we have resistance to just comes back harder. That's why it's useful to understand where everything is and moving and so on and so forth. So the gears will shift slightly with Venus in Capricorn, Mars in Taurus, and Mercury will also go into Pisces on the 11th of February. So there's a shift in energy going on there. The earthy energy is just going to bring about more stability, you could say. It might, it's certainly going to slow things down. It might just give us all that chance to, just bring some more stamina, stability, consolidation, planning, creating sort of firmer foundations, because the fire energy just wants to fly. It just wants to fly. It just wants to be totally free. It doesn't want to commit, doesn't want to ground itself, doesn't want to anchor itself into anything. So we've had a lot of that energy lately with Mars in Aries and Venus in Sag. We've been flying all over the place, which is great. I personally love it. I've got a lot of fire in my chart. But now this earth energy that's going to come in, and it's nothing new because we've got Pluto in Capricorn, Saturn in Capricorn, so we're fairly familiar with this earth energy. But for the month of February, we just need to keep in mind that it's going to be very wise to make some practical changes or applications to what's going on in our life at the time. And on the 18th of February, Saturn and Venus will form a conjunction. So transiting Venus catches up to Saturn. And a few days later, on the 23rd of February, transiting Venus catches up to transiting Pluto. So I'm expecting from the 18th of February right through till about the 24th, 25th, 26th even, that's going to be a pretty, how shall I put it? It might be a week where we feel a little bit heavy. It might be matters of the past that need to come up and be cleared up further again with relationship stuff. There might be some further separations. There might be some transformations. So it just depends who you are, what's happening in your life, what's happening in your relationships, etc., etc. But it is a difficult energy. I'm not going to fluff it over and make it something, that just sounds so beautiful and glorious. The most powerful thing about it is that it can potentially help you bring some things up. And I say past as well because just after that, 18th of Feb, Venus conjunct Saturn, 23rd of Feb, Venus conjunct Pluto, and then it conjuncts the South Node as well. So drawing in some energy from some past residue, let's say, some past matters, could be past karma, could be this life, could be past life stuff. It just depends. But either way, there can be a real sensible sort of approach to how you're handling things that week, because Saturn energy is going to give you that sensible, practical, realistic tone to how you are looking at things regarding money and relationships. And the Pluto can be, because Pluto connects to things that reappear from the past, such as people, namely. So the Pluto energy can either finish something off altogether, or it can just regenerate and transform the current situation. So it just depends what's going on in your life. And the Mercury moving into Pisces, 11th of February, well, that starts a very different pattern or a very different way of processing things mentally, because we're going to be doing it through Pisces, for the next few weeks after that. So make the most of Mercury in Aquarius until the 11th of Feb, because Mercury in Aquarius, in my opinion, is one of the best places for Mercury. It's outstanding. I've seen many people with Mercury in Aquarius, and their mind is just genius. It's amazing. The person who taught me astrology over 25 years ago, he's got Mercury in Aquarius, and he literally is like a genius, especially when it comes to the technical aspects of astrology. He's just got such a sharp mind. So while Mercury is in Aquarius, that energy is gifted to us, to become more clear and more objective and really able to see bigger picture stuff. So it's a very powerful Mercury. Make the most of it, because when it gets into Pisces, it fuses into everything. So there's no boundaries. There can be confusion. There can be oversensitivity. There can be not seeing things clearly for what they actually are. So, that will kick in after the 11th of Feb. So just be aware of that. Make the most of this time now. Okay, I really just need to start with the new moon through the houses, because this video is going a lot longer than I anticipated. Now, the new moon in the first house is amazing, amazing. That's where it's going to be for me. That's not why I'm saying it. The first house is so interesting. It's there's just one main thing that I've not really read in any textbooks, and it's important to know, because this is not just applicable to the new moon in the first house, but it's applicable to when you have planets crossing over the ascendant into the first house. I'm not suggesting no astrologer has ever said this, but I haven't really come across it. When a planet goes into your first house, and in this case now we're talking about the sun and the moon will be in the first house, and it's a new moon and it's conjunct Mercury. So that would mean that you either have Aquarius rising or Pisces rising, and you have some Pisces and Aquarius energy in your first house, which can happen unless, of course, you use whole sign houses, which is a different thing altogether. If you use whole sign houses, then you will have Aquarius beginning at your ascendant point period, and it will just go all the way through your first house. Okay, so when you have planets going into the first house, something starts to there's a new sort of discovery about your own self. You discover something new about yourself that you didn't actually realize, that you weren't aware of. So that's it. That's what I wanted to say about that. It's a wonderful thing, because when you've got planets going into your first house, consider that to be a period where you're going to go, depending on the planet moving through your first house, will then determine the duration of this experience. But if it's a slow-moving planet, you can imagine like Pluto in your first house. It might be there for 20 years, might be there longer. So that's 20 years of your life where you're just discovering these incredible things about yourself. How awesome is that? So anyway, whatever planet it is will dictate its duration, and whatever planet it is will also correlate to and define the sorts of things that you will discover about yourself, and how as well, right? So new moon in the first house can be obviously a very powerful time to really put a very clear conscious intention about your own self. It has to be about yourself because it's the first house. With the Aquarian undertone in mind, something about yourself that you can discover and understand better when you're trying to bring it forth and share it with others. So it could be a skill, it could be a talent, it could be anything about you that is something new, something new you discover and understand better about yourself. The first house is all about your own self-identity. The first house is also very much connected to instincts, right? So this new moon in the first house can really tap into your instincts as well. It can bring that energy forth. That can be very powerful because of the conjunction to Mercury, sextile to Jupiter. So you'll have a really strong sense and gut feeling about something that you're planting and putting into place during this new moon. It's also, the first house is also about your own independence, and it's also about the pioneering sort of energy and spirit of who you are. What is it that you can? It's the energy that connects to entrepreneurs, for instance. Anything that you begin yourself. Which, sorry, I just want to go back, and I've pretty much finished the first house anyway. But it's really taking the initiative and taking the lead with something that you begin during that new moon. That's going to lead you to greater discovery about yourself. It's very powerful. Before I go into the second house, I just failed to mention something else that is really, really important for the month of February, is that Chiron finally moves back into Aries. So, for the past 8.5 years, we've had Chiron in Pisces, and that's meant a lot of spiritual systems, a lot of systems, a lot of spiritual sort of beliefs or truths that people perhaps held or believed about life or themselves have undergone a period and a process of dissolution, clarity, painful realizations as well. I think has been very much linked to the mainstream religious establishments as well, because let's face it, most of them have been exposed, and unfortunately that exposure has led to the wounding of the people that have been abused by these congregations and people. So anyway, it's been very much linked to all of that collectively and so much more, but on your own personal level, very much been about your own sort of spiritual understanding of truth, divine oneness, and what that has been for you. So for the last 8.5 years, you've been healing and working through that, just to put it very simply. But I want to say this, that really pay attention to the house that Chiron is in natally. The sign is one thing, but the house is another thing. And the house can sometimes be, if it's in the 12th house, it's so difficult to understand what that really is about. I would have to work with somebody so deeply, so closely for quite some time to really get a sense of what that is for that person. Because the 12th house and the 8th house, for that matter, they're just so complex. The 8th house, you could probably, it would be easier to delineate than the 12th. But pay attention to where Chiron is natally, because it has so much to say about where you feel seriously rejected. It's not a word that you often hear with Chiron. You just hear wounded healer. And yes, he was a wounded healer. But he was also rejected at birth by his parents. And that's a really core component of the archetype of Chiron that lives within all of us. So, whatever house it's in your birth chart, there's issues around rejection that we experience correlating to that house, meaning that area of life. And it's not because we're being punished. It's because that's something that we need to heal and work through and become more conscious of, period. So anyway, Chiron moving into Aries, for the next several years, it's going to be there for quite some time. This is going to be, I think, a very powerful period, the next 7-8 years, whatever it's going to be around there, where I think a lot more healers are going to step forward. I think there's going to be a really, this is collectively speaking, there's going to be a greater sense of people stepping into entrepreneurship and just, you know, creating their own path with their own healing tools and techniques and whatever it may be. You know, you could be an astrologer, you could be a therapist, you could be a tarot reader, you could be a massage therapist, you could be a crystal healer, you could be, well, there's so many different modalities, isn't there? But I think this Chiron in Aries can potentially give people that ability to take that sort of entrepreneurship, pioneering energy forth and contribute, you know, with their ability to heal. The healing component being what Chiron is ultimately about, and the Aries component being that force, that energy, that spirit that drives us to express and to be. So I think Chiron in Aries on that collective level can bring about a lot of that stuff. But on the other hand, it's also going to be very much linked to the questioning of your own personal identity. And what is it about your own identity that that needs to be understood, that needs to become more whole, that needs to be healed? So I'll probably do a separate video on the Chiron in Aries just to unpack things from a few different angles. But anyway, just wanted to mention that on the 19th of February, Chiron goes into Aries, and it's a very significant shift in cosmic celestial energies changing. So the second house, with the new moon in your second house, and when I say your second house, let me be very clear, because a lot of astrologers will say they work with the idea that there's no time of birth, so that they just place your sun in the first house, for instance, right? But I'm working with the premise that you do have a time of birth, and therefore you are actually relating this new moon back to your actual natal horoscope chart. So wherever Aquarius is in your birth chart, because it could be anywhere, it could be in any one of those 12 houses. The 11th house is the natural Aquarian house, but not everyone was born with Aries rising. You would need to be born with Aries rising to have Aquarius in your 11th house. So wherever Aquarius is, depending on what time you were born, well, that area of your chart is where that new moon will fall, right? This is why I'm doing the new moon through the houses, so that we can all have a bit of a glimpse into what this new moon can bring from the point of view of where it lands in your chart. So the second house, and a lot of this is going to sound pretty familiar because I'm essentially delineating the meaning of the houses in conjunction with this new moon, right? So the second house can be very much about your own resources, money, the everyday sort of influx of cash flow. It's your internal resources as well. So we can also connect it to art as well, because Venus is a ruler of the second house because it rules Taurus, or she rules Taurus. So the second house is very much to do with art as well, and beauty, more beauty really. So and the second house is also very much connected to security, you know, your overall sense of security. And it's also the biological instinct of survival. That's very much the second house. So whatever enables you to survive in life is where you place a lot of your value onto. Now, when the new moon lands in the second house, that can be a wonderful time to obviously set some intentions and put some things into place that can really assist you with money, to put it quite simply. So that can be anything from investments, that can be anything from creating some kind of financial plan, that can be raising your prices in your business. I mean, it can be anything. I'm not suggesting you do any of those things. I'm only suggesting the possibilities, because it's going to be different for each of you. But the point being, when the new moon lands in the second house, the energy is very much around money, income, investment, flow of money, cash flow, building, investing, those sorts of things, right? So what is it in your life at this point when this new moon arrives? Don't forget, this new moon has a sextile to Jupiter, so there'll be some kind of opportunity that can come out of this new moon for you. So think about this. Let the Mercury conjunct the new moon tune you into the Aquarian energy of innovative thinking, thinking outside the box of how you normally do things. Let it, encourage you to be more inventive in what you're doing around matters with money. Now, the third house is very much about your learning, your ideas, your knowledge, your understanding, your left brain. So you might be at a stage in your life where you're studying, a lot. You might be wanting to start studying. You might be wanting to do some kind of workshop, some kind of short course. The third house is not degrees in universities. It's more short-term things, right? But if it's not about studying, then just think of it around the point of view of helping you make very important connections, right? Networking. The third house is networking. So if you're at a point in your life where networking is going to be something that's going to really assist a project that you are working on, then this would be the time to set that intention, to get clear on how you're going to do that, because that new moon is going to be in the third house. As I said, sextile Jupiter, conjunct Mercury. So it's bringing you those opportunities with a very clear, innovative way of seeing and thinking. Fourth house is all about your private world, your soul life, your inner life, your family, your immediate family, your own family if you're married and you have children, or it could be your extended families and your parents and siblings. Sorry, the third house is also siblings as well, so there may be some important thing that can be put forward relative to you and a sibling that might be really important for you, that can create some kind of opportunity for the both of you as well. And that could just be as simple as maybe there's been an awkwardness of some sort. Maybe there's been some arguments. Maybe there's been some tensions. This new moon can be a really great time to clear that stuff up as well. Getting back to the fourth house. Sorry, I'm jumping around a bit because I'm remembering things as I'm speaking. The fourth house is also about your self-image and ego. So it's the fourth house, because it's so private and internal. Now, from a more practical, mundane level, the new moon in the fourth house can correlate to a move of home. It can correlate to expanding your current home, changing something in your current home. Something new that you want to essentially put into place, whether it's in your current home or whether it's moving to a new home. That can be a great time when the new moon's in the fourth to do that. If you want to use the energy to work more on your soul life, your inner world, your private world, well, it can be a great time to access things that are very unconscious. It can be a great time to be doing, meditations, transmissions that connect to your ancestral lines as well. Maybe you want to do some cord cutting, clearing some things from the past. The fourth house is the past. So it can be a very powerful time to transmute energies from that inner soul level and obviously get some greater clarity around those sorts of things for yourself that might have to do with ancestral lines and patterns. There's family ancestral lines and patterns, things that we're sort of bound by to a degree. especially when we're unconscious of it. So the fourth house can be, home life stuff, as in literally your home space or just your inner home soul. Fifth house is, love affairs. So you might want to start a love affair. I'm just kidding. But it is the house of love affairs. So, people do have love affairs when energies kick off the fifth house. That's a fact. So there's no right or wrong. It's just a fact of people have those experiences. Sometimes a love affair can, another way of understanding this is to say that you meet somebody and it starts off as a bit of a love affair. There's this infatuation, romance, but there's no scope of relationship material stuff. It's more of a just enjoyment, fun type of a connection, because the fifth house is about joy and fun. It's about having a party. So you start a love affair with somebody where things just feel so fun and, all that sort of stuff, but it could lead into something. It could lead into a deeper commitment, into a long relationship. You don't know. So, but it always starts at that fifth house. When connection starts in that fun, romantic, playful kind of way, it's a fifth house connection, basically. So that sort of energy is very strong if that moon for you falls into your fifth house. It's also about your own creative juice and self-actualization, because the fifth house is self-actualization. So it's a time where if you're a creative, artistic person, whether it's music or whether it's dance or whether it's crafts or, whatever it is for you that is connected to creativity, this can be a really powerful time to expand on that, to maybe start something new with it if you wanted to. Just get in touch with that creative energy, basically, because don't forget, and I'll probably say this through every house, the moon is sextile Jupiter. There's an opportunity coming up. So whatever house it falls in, there is some kind of opportunity that can come to us through this energy. The sixth house is very much about mind-body connection. So if the moon falls into your sixth house, the new moon, this can be a really amazing time to kick off a very new process or routine or plan or whatever you want to call it regarding your health, mind-body health. So it can literally be diet and exercise to meditation, Tai Chi, martial arts, boxing, whatever, whatever you feel aids to your well-being and health. The sixth house is interesting because it's so complex actually, but it's also connected to work, daily work, daily routine. So this could be a great time to start some kind of letting go of some habit and replacing it with a new habit that's more conducive to a healthy lifestyle, for instance. It can be something that you want to change in your actual workplace. You're wanting to start something new there. Don't forget, the sextile to Jupiter is going to grant you some kind of opportunity. The sixth house is also about healing work. So if you're a healer, some kind of practitioner of healing work, this can be a really powerful time to work with that energy and develop with your healing, whether it's healing that you do for other people or the healing that you're doing on yourself. It can be a very powerful time because something happens when that new moon falls into the sixth. That something connects us very deeply to that mind-body connection. So we can, it's almost like we can, how can I put it? We have that ability to just go into finding a greater sort of sense of connection with the mind-body, I suppose is what I'm trying to say. The other thing about the sixth house, it's the house of work. So it's also the house of service. So, you might want to create something around service. We all give some kind of service, really, however you want to look at it. No one's well, I shouldn't say no one, but the majority of us are serving really in some kind of way, aren't we, to ourselves, to humanity, to life, etc. The sixth house very much depicts that service sort of quality and energy. It's also the house of techniques and discipline. So if you are wanting to develop some new technique or some new discipline, or you wanted to apply more discipline to something that you've been doing, that's the time to do it when the new moon goes in the sixth. House number 7, which is the natural Libran house, is the house of relationships and partnerships. It's getting really hot. I was at the gym before I came here, and I was on the boxing bag. Anyway, 7th house, partnerships, relationships, business partnerships. It can be a relationship you have with your lawyer, with your astrologer, with your therapist, with your doctor. Any one-on-one relationship you have, professional or personal, is always the 7th house. So, you might be wanting to start therapy, see your astrologer, speak to your lawyer, start some new phase or new sort of approach in your relationship, your personal relationship that you have with your partner. It's a beautiful energy to cultivate some new awareness, something new that can be born into the world of relationships, and how you relate, how you see the other, and how you see that relationship. And an opportunity can be presented through that as well. The 8th house is so complex, it's so deep, it's a Scorpio house. It can take us into streams that are beyond the scope of certainly the left brain. We have to go into a much deeper place within ourselves and within our own psyche to even just scratch the surface of the 8th house, because it's so deep, so vast, and so complex. But when a new moon transits the 8th house, that can be a wonderful opportunity to help you tap into those deeper components of your psyche. It can be working with sexual energy, whether that's learning things yourself, or whether that's through sexual healing in your current relationship. It can be also resources, shared resources that you have with somebody else. It's also the bank. The bank's money belongs to the 8th house. So if you want to, go for a bank loan, just to use a simple example, if you've got a good 8th house and this new moon is going in your 8th house, this would be a good time to do that, because the 8th house is not your money. It's always somebody else's money. So if you're going to the bank, I know technically speaking and realistically speaking, the bank doesn't own shit. They don't even have any money. It's our money. We all know that, right? But regardless of the bigger truths, we still are, most of us are still in a position where we would need to go to a bank to ask for a loan, right? So that's a reality for a lot of people. So the new moon's in the 8th house and you've got a strong 8th house, this can be a great time to do something like that if you needed some cash. Exploring, sort of deeper, esoteric, mysterious, taboo sort of subjects. If you wanted to open yourself up deeper to those levels of consciousness, that's a great time to do it with the new moon in the 8th. Okay, the 9th house, very clearly that's a Sag house. It's connected to travel, long distance travel, religion, philosophy, truth, consciousness, right brain, expansion, intuition. Books and publishing is also connected to the 9th house. So if you're in the process of writing a book and you want it published, new moon in the 9th, go for it, I say. Naturally, I would recommend that you look at some other things in your chart as well. But I'm just giving an overview. This is an overview. And my disclaimer is that this overview can manifest in different ways for different people. Nothing is definitive as such. So the ninth house, if you wanted to go to university, get into a degree, study, travel, study astrology, study the tarot, all symbolic languages are connected to the ninth house. So this could be a beautiful opportunity, beautiful time to start something new with that part of your life. Or have an astrology reading, or go to an astrologer, or have a tarot reading. New moon in the ninth, you're bound to get a lot of insight out of that experience. 10th house is your social status, career path, life direction, achievements, external achievements and successes, ambitions, and it's also your ability to be disciplined as well. It's the structure and the limitations as well. So sometimes we can be building a lot of structure in our life that's leading us on our path. Some people call that a career, some people call it a job, some people call it a vocation. It depends on who you are and how you feel about that. But the 10th house is generally more about career than it is a job that someone does just to get some money to get by, to survive, that they're not really happy in. That's more 6th house, because 6th house is the house of service. But when the new moon's in the 10th house, something really beautiful can begin in your career. It can be a transitional point in your career. It can be a complete change of direction for you as well. It can be planting, that seed, that intention, that desire to want, something to really flower through your career path at the moment. You're ready for that, perhaps, Jupiter forming a sextile, again, some opportunity can come to you on this path that you are on with your career, okay? 11th house is about your social consciousness, group consciousness, community consciousness, friendships. So any type of group work that you might engage in or get involved in or lead yourself, or, facilitate or engage in, that's the sort of energy that's connected to the 11th house. It's also very much about your dreams and your wishes, and it's the house of the guardian angel. The 11th house is where your angels are. So depending on what energy you've got in the 11th house, that might describe the types of angelic beings that you have around you. If it's Jupiter, then you get that sense where you've got the almighty, divine oneness there as your guardian angel. You got the big guns there, to put it in a particular way. But anyway, that the 11th house being connected to your dreams and wishes, new moon in the 11th house, sextiling Jupiter, conjunct Mercury, this can be an amazing time to plant that seed for your dreams and wishes. What are they? Do you know what they are? Have you contemplated on that for a while? Have you reflected on it? Have you decided on it? These questions are important. But anyway, it's a really beautiful time to set those intentions for your dreams and wishes, right? It's also about the connection with groups, as I said, and connection with friends. It can be a really beautiful time for making new friendships as well, just to keep it very simple. And let's face it, healthy friendships are so important, aren't they? Because for a lot of people, their friends are like family to them, especially if you've got moon in the 11th. All your friends will be your family. But friendships are very, very important, aren't they? We invest a lot of ourself, our time, our energy, our heart and soul into friendships because we value them, right? So when a friendship forms, it's an important experience. However long it lasts, it lasts. There's no right or wrong in that. But just that connection. So that new moon in the 11th house can bring something new on that level for you. Moon in the 12th house, well, that's a funny one actually, because it's very difficult to kind of to bring something solid forth with the meaning of that new moon in the 12th, because the 12th house is boundless, right? It's the ocean. So it's just this fluidity. It's boundless, oneness, divine truth. Divine truth to all. So I think when you're having a 12th house experience, it's really about accessing the Akashic records, which can be the 9th house as well. Dreams, working with dreams, meditation, seclusion, withdrawing. It's got nothing to do with, developing anything out there in the world. It's got to do with the inner life, the inner world, and what kind of perhaps work can you do around that? What would you like to do, with the new moon in the 12th house? You may want to access your dream life more. You may want to understand more about that. You may want to understand more around the principles of karma connecting to your 12th house. You may want to be clearing some of that up. You may want to start a meditation project or go on a retreat. Just totally disconnect from the busyness of the world out there. Well, these are the sorts of things generally we would do, with energies in the 12th house, and the new moon in there is connecting to these sorts of experiences. Can also be hospitalization or imprisonment. I know that's negative, but that's just a fact, because imprisonment and hospitalization is connected to the 12th house. I've been in hospital when I've had planets transiting my 12th house. Just how it is. That's what happens. Not all the time. That's what can happen. So, don't be surprised if you observe something like that. Mostly, though, with the 12th house, it's really about taking time out to go into a beautiful, tranquil, quiet, serene sort of space if you can. Even just to set the intention of what it is you would like to tap into with that new moon entering your 12th house, because it can give you access to something that you're unconscious about. The 12th house is completely unconscious to all of us. Everything is in that 12th house. Everything. So can you imagine what is in there for you? And imagine the different things you can access. It's pretty spectacular. All right. That's me done for today. I hope you guys enjoy this video. I know I sort of jumped around a little bit, but hopefully you've been able to stay on track with me. And leaving it there, wishing you all a beautiful new moon, because it is going to be a beautiful new moon. Conjunct Mercury in Aquarius, sextile Jupiter in Sag, Chinese New Year. There's so many wonderful things about this new moon taking us into the month of February. It's going to be wonderful, so make the most of it. Think about where this new moon falls for you relative to everything I've explained, and see how you can integrate that into what's going on in your life at the moment, how that might be able to best serve you at the moment, what you would like to do with that. Because I could give so much more than what I just have with the understanding of the new moon in each house. But like I said, this would then be a 3-hour video or thereabouts. Love and blessings. See you soon, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.